cautious celebration this week, right? Because not only was Jesus resurrected, so was the concept of being a woman. Hurrah! You would think after 100 years we had to battle to get the vote. Women threw themselves in front of horses. We then had to battle just to get into certain workplaces. We have had to fight so hard just to be able to do basic things which frankly we could have done all along. But no, you wind the clock forward to 2020 and thus begins a court case about actually just being able to be a woman. So we're all here celebrating the fact that finally, the highest court in the land has gone, oh yeah, women don't have penises. Yeah, probably learnt that at GCSE biology. Let's make that a law. I mean, get on. Wasn't that always obvious? No. The problem is, to me, this is such a red flag to society. That is such regression. The fact that women have had to fight hard, be called terse, be demonised, be terrorised at protests, be cancelled from the workplaces, be threatened online, be called all number of horrific names just to make sure their daughters can sleep in tents in Brownie Camp without fear of some grisly perverts coming in and climbing into the sleeping bag, just so when they sit on the toilet or are changing their tampon within the privacy of a cubicle, there's not some creepy weirdo next door, ears pressed against the wall, listening for his titillation. That is not to say, of course, that all men with gender dysphoria are some kind of fetish-loving monster. No. I actually think that people with genuine gender dysphoria are not. But the thing is, those people have actually got along in society for quite a few decades now without too much complaint. The movement was hijacked by autogynephiles, men riddled with fetish perverts. It was never women saying we want to get into men's space. No, it was men who failed at their own sports. They weren't able to do the 100-metre butterfly and qualify for the Olympics. So guess what? I'm now a 6'3", lugging great Greek geezer who's going to call himself Tiffany, and I'm going to compete that way. Or it's a man who really is just laughing in our face, trolling women, when he has the pigtails and the itsy-bitsy squeaky little voice. Oh, look at me in my sweet little German dress in my frock. Oh, look at me in my teddy bears. This is what little girls are like, ha, 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 with a great beard. It's weird. It's creepy. No one minded a drag act back in the day. People loved it. They were beloved in our society. It was a sign of progress and freedom and joy and being able to just laugh at life. Until a few of them decided they wanted to sit little kiddies on their laps while wearing giant phalluses and read them Mog, the Forgetful Cat. It got weird, it got creepy, and we weren't allowed to say anything about it. That is how dangerous the whole debate became. And I don't think, even though finally we've got this Supreme Court ruling, I don't think we're out of the woods yet. I'm joined now by women's rights campaigner Venice Allan. Fantastic to have you in the studio. I mean, we're cautiously optimistic, aren't we? But the madness ain't finished, is it?
No, it's not over yet, but this is a really big achievement for us last week and then also today, hearing the government say that they accepted the Supreme Court's decision that a woman is an adult human female and that you should use facilities in all places that match your biological sex. So, i.e. trans women should use the gents. And so I was super happy about that.
I'm happy, right? I'm with you. You know I'm with you. You know which side of bread is buttered in this debate. But let's play devil's advocate, right? Let's imagine that there is a man who had all the surgeries years and years and years ago. One of those men, frankly, who you couldn't really tell they used to be a man. And that person has, you know, been sort of minding their own business, getting on with life, probably going in and out of women's toilets, not causing anyone a disturbance, you know, loves women, wanted to be one, gets them, is compassionate towards them. Then all of a sudden they're told, right, you can't go into that toilet anymore. You've got to go and use the urinals. What do we do about
they
them?
have cubicles in men's toilets. I think what we need to do is like what the sports bodies are doing, which is like women's spaces and open space, you know, mixed spaces for toilets for men. You know, I think that men need to open up to those other men and kind of expand what it means to be a man, and that includes having surgery and wearing dresses. Like, I don't see why the feelings of a very small number of men should trump all the rest of us, women, 51% of this population.
So this is my concern, right? Because the obvious solution, blimmin' years ago, would have been to say we got men's toilets, we got women's toilets, and then we've got a toilet for people who don't want to use the men's toilets or the women's toilets for their own reason. I mean, actually, we already have disabled bathrooms, which are unisex, and usually the disabled bathroom is put near the women's toilets because we're cleaner and friendlier, and thus it should stay that way. I should add. Why couldn't they use that toilet? Why wasn't that done? My suspicion is because this was never about actually giving people who deserve dignity, and I am all for that. I really am, and I'm actually a little bit now, after Bridget Phillipson said if you're a Bulmer you've got to use the male's toilets. There is a part of me that thinks, you know, if there is a man who had all the surgeries and frankly is indistinguishable from a woman who walks into a male toilet in a rowdy pub, probably not going to be a great experience.
If he really is indistinguishable, then he will carry on and use that, won't he?
True, actually. Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like, we know some of them do pass, and some people, you know, without being trans or whatever, like, look like the opposite sex. We know that there are examples, but the overwhelming majority of them, Alex, aren't.
But these are the ones in my mind who aren't the proper, genuine dysphoric lot. They're the ones who don't want to go through the surgeries. It's something else. It's its own category, and it's probably related to some sort of fetish.
Yeah, but I think we have to be careful about kind of making too much about when they have surgery, because kind of the maddest ones will do that. It's a kind of self-harm, that kind of gender surgery. And B, we don't want to encourage like young people who are worrying about like what sex they are. We don't want them to think, well, that's the real trans. Actually, although I don't like the women with penises, I'd rather that they just left their bodies alone, especially young and vulnerable people.
Yeah, no, we were saying earlier on in the programme, the fact that we have actually always promoted and encouraged kids to have a psychological condition, to me, is pure evil.
Exactly.
The problem we face, and look, they're not going to back down, these trans protesters, are they? And they're a pretty nasty lot. The fact that they defaced Millicent Fawcett, the suffragette, with graffiti shows that these people don't like women's rights. They don't like women. They actually hate women.
I actually think, if you look at that, I don't know if I can say what it said because it's a bit rude, but like the way it's written and with a love heart and what it actually said, I wouldn't be surprised if
I don't know, what did it say?
Can I say? It's a rude word for gay. Also means a cigarette, and
right, so like a sort of, you know,
so offensive. It's actually really offensive to gay men, that you've got young girls using homophobic slurs to just, you know, just because gay men don't want them because they're gay.
Yeah, everything is so divisive and nasty. There's an undercurrent of bullying about the lot of it. But apparently there's now going to be large rallies planned from Darlington to Southampton, York, Coventry, Liverpool, Portsmouth, Birmingham, Cheltenham, Cambridge, Derby, Oxford and Bristol. I mean, I don't what is the motivation for these people who turn up and do this when the average sane person can see that it's important to protect women's spaces and women's sports? My worry is they're not going to back down, and what they're going to be pushing for is for all toilets to become gender neutral, unisex, which is utterly grotesque. Women definitely don't want that. No. And frankly, I don't think a lot of men do either. No. I think men find it just as uncomfortable as women, by and large, unless you're a bit of a weirdo. Yeah. And the way it goes, that, you know, economically with developers, they're going to find a loophole and think, great, the law says that, you know, we've got to make these sorts of facilities available. Now we only have to build one toilet block, not two. Because I know of certain offices, I used to work at a TV station with toilets that fit this description. And you would think that, you know, if any place wasn't going to have the unisex toilets, it would be them. But they rent their space. And I'd imagine the office developer, when they built that building, was thinking, this is how we can cut a corner.
Yeah, I mean, like you said earlier, I think it's okay to have unisex spaces as well as single-sex spaces, because there's various reasons why all sorts of people might need that. But I think we definitely need to keep an eye on this, and we definitely need to protect having single-sex spaces and services. But I think that with this ruling, it's going to be a lot easier to do that.
Have you encountered much sort of horror and nastiness when you've gone out sort of campaigning for women's rights?
Absolutely, Alex. Like, because I organised an event in 2017 at Speaker's Corner where a grandmother was knocked to the ground by a 23-year-old boy in lipstick who went on to be a professional boxer in Thailand. And so all around the country, like, we've done talks and also regularly at Speaker's Corner, and we're met by protests of really angry men and their angry women with them. And we've had physical assaults, we've had like horrible, like just shouting in our faces, horrible banners. I mean, the placards I saw from protests this weekend were just insane, like calling for death. And I don't think people should go to prison for, nasty words. However, we have got people in prison for nasty words, much less nasty words than what these placards are. And the police are there, and I just don't understand why they not arrest them, but just say, put that in the bin.
But this is it. When you stand back, whenever I've seen any footage online of these protests, people look feral, they look unhinged, they look rabid, they look like deeply unpleasant people who probably need to be told, go home, you're making a spectacle, you should be ashamed of yourself, you're a disgrace, you're not doing the cause for equality and justice any good whatsoever. And what's more, seeing a ruddy great man pick on a woman is pretty disgusting.
And even more disgusting is the way they're threatening to urinate everywhere.
Do you know what, Venice? I don't know if you were listening to me in the last hour, but I pointed this out, right? It's not spoken about enough. There is some funny Venn diagram between men with beards who want to wear dresses and the same people wanting to throw their pee about the place. Because I've seen this when there were protests in the European Parliament around there. The men were filling up bottles and just pouring their urine all over the floor. And you go, oh, are these the sane, nice, safe people we need to be compassionate towards?
And then invite into our spaces.
Are they people who probably need their hard drives given a once-over?
Yeah, they are literally like the worst men that we want to be getting undressed around. Literally the worst. Like, I wouldn't want to get undressed around any man who was a stranger, but the ones, what is it? The good men stay out, so the bad ones stand out,
But this is the thing. When it comes to people who, and it's a vanishingly small number of people, frankly, who are genuinely gender dysphoric, right? The fact that you've got all these sort of odd bods now who are sort of, jumping on the bandwagon. They might have, put on high heels in the privacy of their own room or gone to the drag club, and now they're all over the place trying to get into the loos. These people aren't the ones that I think are the genuinely dysphoric people. And those people are probably the ones, apart from, the safeguarding of children and women, they also are the ones who are greatly at risk through these protests. Because like I said before, if they just wanted to get on with their blimmin' lives, now they've been turned into the subject of what has been a really nasty, vitriolic campaign. Yeah,
I would like to hear more from those people, to be honest, because we haven't heard that many sane voices. But I don't know, I think, I don't know what gender dysphoria is, whether it's a kind of body dysmorphia, but gender is just sexist stereotypes. So if somebody, it's the problem with society rather than the self. So the idea of binding your breasts or taking hormones, it's just the wrong approach to those negative feelings.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? When you do see some of these influencers, especially, who are the sort of trans women, they always sort of appropriate some sort of really gross trope of a woman.
Of course they do.
It's almost like it's the equivalent of blackface, as far as I can tell.
It's worse than blackface in a way, because at least, blackface is super offensive, but at least it wasn't a sexual kink.
Yeah. No, there are these people who sort of go, I'm on my period.
You literally see it all the time. Or they have names like, prostitutes, or the way they dress, and it's just so regressive. And then you have the other kind of dressing like the vicar's wife. It's all just nasty stereotypes.
Darling, it's fabulous. We should celebrate all of this, and not only should we celebrate it, we should make sure that when your kids are on their school trip, when they cozy up in their bunk beds at night, that man is also there. I mean, come on.
I mean, literally,
How
Alex.
did we get that far?
Literally,
what happened?
The guides and the brownies and the scouts. It's so bad.
Venice, why did so many women go along with this?
I just don't know. I think the campaign, the transgenderist campaign, has been quite clever. Force teaming the gays and lesbians, first of all, and then getting women to feel really sorry for them. I just think I think a lot of people are drawn into it because they know somebody who feels like this.
I mean, I want to stand up for women. I do it all the time. But sisters, you've been letting the side down. There are way too many women out here who joined that campaign because they wanted to shower themselves in moral rectitude. I'm so progressive. I went on a trans march. Look at me on Instagram with my rainbow placard. Aren't I so wonderful? It's vanity politics.
Well, this whole case came from Nicola Sturgeon. You know, she just portrayed women so badly, and that's what got For Women Scotland, you know, campaigning against what they were doing up there, and they are the ones who've managed to get this settled in law. So it's kind of it's funny. It's the last on Nicola, really.
You've segued me quite nicely into the next topic, which is the fact that a Green MSP has been urged to quit after accusing the Supreme Court of bigotry. Oh, they don't go down quietly, do they? Maggie Chapman, Deputy Governor of Hollywood's Equalities Committee. Why is it that these people who actually want division end up as the Equalities Ministers?
It's so
like,
insane.
what is going on?
That footage from Dundee, actually, my friend Brindy's Blackadder, she filmed that. She went there all on her own and filmed them, which I think is pretty brave. And it's absolutely insane. There's an MSP standing there listening to a man talk about how he wants to defecate on J.K. Rowling's head. It's like, what? What?
I told you, the Venn diagram of all the fetishes they meet.
At that event, and then she's talking about, you know, I think I can't remember what they're called, like the advocates or whatever wrote a letter saying about her, but the way she was talking about the Supreme Court, like she has a role in justice, and then she's just saying that the Supreme Court are bigoted, prejudiced, hatred. I mean, she's so unprofessional, that woman. When you talk about traitors to women, I probably nominate her as #1.
All right, she's going to be on my blacklist, that's for sure.
You should just look at her Twitter or Instagram. She's absolutely insane on this.
I tell you what, I'd rather not do that. But very often, when you do, when you are able to identify some of these trans activists, the men who want to dress up as women, and you look at some of their posts on social media, you suddenly go, whoa, this is a danger.
The worst ones for me are the ones that do the breastfeeding.
What?
You know, there's the guy, the Labour Party activist, who was on ITV like last year or something, and he breastfed his girlfriend's baby, and then there's another one in America called Nominee Naomi or something, who breastfeeds a real child, but then apparently not, but does like OnlyFans dressed up as a cow.
These people all have some sort of pretty grotesque ego. I mean, that's pretty much if Freud was alive today, he'd certainly be very busy. Venice, thank you so much for coming into the studio. It's been an absolute joy speaking to you. I'm afraid we've still got a lot of hard work to do, I think. We're not going to be able to sleep easy until...
We won't back down, Alex.
We're never going to back down. Good on you.